All right. So, welcome to Friday Flow. Uh, Again, I still have the Friday Flow thing in my head. That's like what I always did. I would open up, and that's what I was at. Oh, so my brain is obviously trained to do a certain thing, and I'm trying to train my brain to do something different, not just for opening this up, but also for um, actually, organizing all of this, as you can see. So uh, that's the big thing. And I've got a mind map here to help me with it. So I one of the things actually on the mind map is figuring out what the name of this is. But right now it's called Flowify Family Business Home because it's all sort of tangled up in one big thing here, and which is kind of what it is in my head. So it sort of fits. Um, so a couple things there when I don't need that thing in my ear at the moment. And second of all, I don't know if this is picking up on it, but I have um, some Spanish music in the background, Latino music. So this one is called Mañana Exitos. You don't even care. But I'm gonna quiet that thing down. There we go. So now I'm not competing with that. I didn't even realize I had that on. That's how focused I was, or scatterbrained I was about what I was doing. Not that that's gonna get that much better, but it's just a side effect of everything. So a lot of discussion about nothing. And I got this mind map all scribbled up on this piece of paper here, and it's it's about the content of this whole vlog series that I'm doing. So first I'll discuss a little bit about my surroundings because there's some people that would like to know what's going on in my surroundings. I'm in a different room because my family is not in the house. When my family's in the house, I go and take myself into the garage office thing, and that's where I do my business and everything else. But there's no reason to have a space heater on in there and all the other stuff. If my family's not here, I'm going to use that split thing you see in the mirror that's keeping this whole place, this whole room warm anyway, and have this nice airy room to be in to work on things. But it may not feel airy. As you can see, I've got lots of things going on in this space. So that is one of the things that's on this list, how to figure out what to start with. So my big picture want for all of this, working on all this vlog, is to organize my own life and make everything work more smoothly. But why I want everything to work more smoothly is so that I can more potent life and make impact and ignite creative tension in my own life as well as others. And so in order to do that, I want to be able to go about it in a way that is productive is part of it, but that's not quite as exciting as experimental. So experimenting is what I want to do. And what I mean by that is instead of just kind of like launching into something and just seeing what happens, I'm going about it in a bit more of a controlled way and figuring it out. So I'm going to see if prioritizing these things a certain way will help me get them done and continue to have them done. Continue to have them. So being done isn't really something that happens. Like when I'm done, I'm dead. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about to have them in a way that it becomes more of a habit for me to take care of that item, and it doesn't take a whole bunch of my executive functions to make things kind of stay more the way I want them, and also to, well, other than just the house. So there's a couple different domains here. So there's domain of my home, just making it kind of work for my family and me. And there's the domain of my business and making that work so I'm resonating with other folks and I'm creating something that really serves the world, myself, and my family. And I'd probably reverse that order of importance to in my case. But those are all things that they're on here. So I've got domains down here, and I've got the big thing up here is how I want to prioritize it, because that's going to be the tough thing. So the content of this is going to be about, I tried to explain this to someone today. like, so this vlog has its own purpose. Like, it's creating a resonating chamber, hopefully, where I'm making some things that really make sense and really emphasizing and uplifting other folks, but also myself and what we're actually getting able to do um, when we got lots of things going on, and people are always self-conscious about their environments or how they're failing and all this nonsense, as opposed to how they can experiment to get more of what they want. So that's why I'm doing all of this, and so the content itself could be me just talking about that stuff, but that's not what I want to do. I want to actually be applying some of this stuff and kind of use my own life as a case study, and to sort of like bounce back and see what people are talking about, and open up the dialogue about what's going on, and at the same time not just talk, do something about it. So this point in the vlog still feels like I'm just talking, but the big thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to trying to train myself to not just jump into things to try and get immediate results. Instead, kind of creating something that I can continue to do, and something that will like last further into the future, and really, like create more of a flywheel of generating what I want, as opposed to just slapdash make something happen and hope it works out. And in that, I'm creating a content list. So, I mean, it's not even a list, it's a mind map. But one of the things I ask on here is it going to be a list? Like, am I going to figure out what content it is by making a list, by making more bubble charts, which is more like a graph kind of thing, or mind maps? They can kind of be the same thing, but they're not necessarily. And then I could like take photos of all the projects I could be working on if I'm just talking about something that's visual, or drawings, I suppose. A bulletin board I could put on there. And I could also just, do whatever's on the top of my mind, which is what I'm trying not to train myself to do. I'm trying to train myself to actually do things that are going to really augment what I want and really amp up what I want to make happen, which is one of the reasons I thought about calling this Amp It Up as as the name of this particular series of vlogs. And then there's also like Eisenhower squares. I put that on there simply because that's an experience, something I've tried earlier, which I think is on this channel at the moment. When I like one of my first vlogs altogether was about the Eisenhower squares, which is the thing where you do 4 different size things that are important, unimportant, urgent, and unurgent, that or something like that. And that's basically all focused on psychological tension as opposed to creative tension. So that is not the way I want to organize it, but I just wanted to mention that as a way I could try and prioritize what I want. And so prioritizing is something that some personalities really like to do, like mine. I really like to figure out how I'm going to prioritize. Unfortunately, it doesn't always mean that I do it, but that I know what order I'd want to have it in, or at least I know how to talk about the order I want to have it in, which could be seen as what I'm doing right now. And I am kind of doing that, but hopefully with more purpose than just spinning the wheels of prioritizing. So another thing I could do is just say that this is my chance to talk about my agenda. This is the agenda I'm going to have. That's another way that it can be looked at, or as a story. So prioritize my agenda story. That's like a big long word to some people who know about some personality types that I've been working with. Joycelyn Campbell with Farther to Go. That whole phrase there is just wrought with sort of like layers of things. But so I'm prioritizing my agenda story. But each of those kind of have a fun thing you can pull out of them, and I really, really like to feel out what I could get out of this experience of vlogging about changing up my environment and the way this works and this computer stuff works and all that, and lots of things. So this is a point where a lot of people might feel very overwhelmed with all of these things, like all tying together and all the big stuff and everything. And I could fit in that category. But I kind of have confidence in my ability to use this system and kind of work it through to get what I'm wanting, and one little step at a time. Um, and so that's I'm going to point out that this is overwhelming for a lot of folks. What I'm getting into and the way I'm going about this could be very overwhelming, and that's fine, and that's ordinary for some folks. And other people are probably just could be relishing in all the minutia and like, what is this guy after and what's going on in there, which is something that I am kind of approaching it with most of the time. So, and then there's this whole story which is not my strong suit, but I want to really increase that. So that's what I'm going to be after here. Anyway, so here's a couple ways I could prioritize, and I'm probably going to use a mixture of these at different times. But I'm putting them down since they're on here. I'm going to just say them, and then we'll see which ones that I use later and how I can actually like make that more visual instead of just me talking. But that's not the level we're at now with the vlog. We're not making visuals. In fact, I have on here that I might, part of the thing I might do is come back and digitally remaster this stuff, throw in all the visuals that, I would want. Anyway, so it's prioritizing. I could be focusing on effectiveness. So how I might do that is focus on one topic or one room or space. Like, and that be the way that I organize my content, like by room or space. I could prioritize by time demand, or by time saving. So both things both focus on time there. So things that demand more time could include things that have been started already. So they'd have less time demand, or they'd also save time because I've already started on them. So another way I could think about time saving is I could the number of times I could figure out how much time it would take me to deal. Like, there's a gate I have out back that goes from the backyard to the front yard, and I take my electric bike through there with the trailer with the kids in it. And currently it's a pretty clumsy system. And I knocked down part of the wall to make the gate bigger, but right now there's just plywood holding the gate in place. It's real ghetto. It's great. And so as I go out, I sort of like rub the sides of the trailer and kind of wiggle it through the door and get it through. And my plan is to make it like a French door almost, that I can open up well enough that I can take the bike through there without rubbing and all that stuff and make it really easy. And how much time does it take every time I have to struggle through that door? Then I'm just fixing that door, right? So if I could calculate it up and do the similar thing with other tasks that I'm thinking about working on with the vlog, then I could get a numeric way to value which one would be more important to do. So that's one option. Along similar lines, I could just figure out how many things are connected to that one behavior. So for instance, right now I'm doing a vlog, and it's connected to everything because I can show you it's connected to everything. But also I'm going to try and like sort of hone my practice and my method of getting this all together through talking through it on this vlog. That's going to be everything all in there. So this is touching everything. So it's kind of high level in there. Everything's connecting. So that's another way that I could do it. Urgency, which I've already mentioned through the Eisenhower squares, is not something I really want to emphasize, because urgent, why? Is it urgent because someone else says it is? Is it urgent because it happens to have a timestamp on it or a due date? But then is that thing itself that important? For instance, I just had, I wanted to organize my photos, and because I wanted to send out a Christmas letter. Well, Christmas is over at the moment. It's about a month ago. And so it's not really a Christmas letter anymore. But even 3 weeks ago, when I was considering to sort of rush that particular project, I realized a Christmas letter is just an annual sort of like touching base with people, and it can be done anytime. I'm just trying to put this due date on it. So that could have been real urgent. But there's other things that I decided I wanted to do that I found more important, and that wasn't up there. This vlog, for instance, getting this going is pretty much up there. So So the other thing goes by important to the world, myself, my family, right? Those are different things that could be important too. And honestly, how am I going to know if it's important to the world as family, except for the way that I'm interpreting it? So that's a whole thing in itself too. Okay. So now another way I could try to prioritize, like, as my story, right? So does it bring more beauty to my life? Does it, like, this room could look great. It could be a delightful place to walk into and just, breath of fresh air, give me a sense of peace. Or it could be a way for me to enter into like the garage or the games shelf over here and actually feel engaged and like, oh, I could do that. I can do that up, or I could pull out a card table. Like inviting kind of things. And that would be more important. It invites me to create more, be more, or something like that. That'd be really cool. Or safety, for instance. Like if something's endangering my life, that kind of gets up there, or endangering my kids, or endangering something. I mean, there's always dangers, so that's not really huge. But obviously, if it's something that's pretty immediate, again, that's getting back to the urgent stuff. See, that could be a real quagmire. But that's obviously going to go into my prioritizing. Then if I'm focusing on like my agenda, what's really frustrating me, as I come in the door. When I first bought this house, there was a number of things, the doors in particular, and that really were upsetting to me. Now the floor also squeaks, and that was something that my wife really wanted to change up. So I really got all gangbusters and almost fixed the squeaky floors. Bought into a couple projects that I never finished, and I got that fancy screws sitting around and know-how about how to fix the creaks, and didn't do it. But we've kind of grown accustomed to it, so that doesn't frustrate us anymore. So what are the things that are really frustrating could be it. Or it could be things that I'm really intensely interested in. So like the amount of interest I have in something. Unfortunately, for my particular personality, that tends to be almost anything in front of me. So I just sort of like, wow, that's something I could do right now. I could do something about that, and I could get really into it and really distracted and focused on that. Also, by the way, I've been diagnosed with adult ADHD. The reason I say adult is because my family, when I was growing up, didn't really want to put the ADHD code on me. Back then, there was a big thing to drug it, just put drugs into that person. I guess that sort of backed off, and people have kind of gotten more of a feel about this ADHD thing. ADHD itself and ADD are not very well understood anyway, but I've got that as a diagnosis now as an adult, along with dyscalculia, which is like dyslexia, but that is a problem too. So all those things going on in my world, and which brings me to something else that I realized that I hadn't mentioned anywhere in here. I wrote this, I set it down, I walked away, and at some point I realized, well, instead of prioritizing by, all these things of like, how much time it takes up or all the other stuff, but like, how do these things affect my agency? Like my ability to actually make happen what I want to have happen and get what I want to get. So that is like a whole context that I could put it in. So I'm probably going to use all of those. Those are all different ways that I'm going to kind of work on this. But I realized that this video is going to be more about me just talking about what could be. So that's just prioritizing. That's like the big corner up here and the corner here. And then I've got this other stuff down here. So also I talked about how I could different list it, how I could rename this. That might go around and around. And I don't know how important that one's going to be for me. It's just one of those things I sort of play with, and maybe at some point I'll decide I'm going to name it this. I keep on opening and wasting a lot of time with opening, saying the wrong thing. So maybe that's something that would be good to kind of get in there and really invite people with a name that's more helpful. Otherwise, I've got the domains of the home and I got the domains of the business. And they're, like I said, they're pretty intertwined, and they both share digital, like the computer here, and the interactions between the different computers, and schedules. because home and business stuff and figuring out when and where different things. And they do, but I figure like the rooms are more of a home thing, even though the garage kind of is my office. But so there's the kitchen for the rooms, there's the bedrooms. They've got three-ish bedrooms, a bathroom, a hallway, and this living room. And so it's not a whole bunch. It's like 7 or 8 rooms, and that's different content there. But then there's also the backyard and the front yard and vehicles. Like those are different things that I could be doing things, basing things on, and working with. So those are things. And of course, each of those rooms can be broken down into different spaces. And the vehicles could be broken into like my van, or the bikes, the numerous bikes, and how I use those or when I use those. And like the gate, like just entryways to those different spaces. Okay, and then with digital, I've got photos on there. I've got art. I've got probably just regular information stuff that I didn't put on here, that computers are often used for. We're not much gamers on the computers. Like when I say us, as in my wife and I. Well, me, I'm not much of a gamer on the computer. So, but then also then this vlog is something to organize, which is actually what I'm probably going to start with. That's the plan, and I'm going to kind of stick to that. And this is part of my brain training: is I'm going to stick to a plan unless I have a good reason to shift from that. And I've got a whole list of ways to convince myself there's another reason to shift from the plan. But currently, my plan is to move from here to then talk about actually how I'm going to organize the vlog and how I get myself started on the vlog. That way, because if I'm going to be doing this every week, and I want to slick that route. I want to make that smooth so I can report on what I'm talking about and focus on actually doing the things, as opposed to figuring out every time, how did I do this last time? How do I want to change this? And instead just say, this is how I'm doing it right now, until for some reason I come up with some really compelling information to change it. And we'll see if I can actually train my brain to do that. And that's my mind map about the content coming up. So I guess next time I will talk to you about amping up how I vlog by the current process that I'm using, which is going live. And a thing I like to say at the end is keep the sparks flowing.